Welcome to another episode of the Insert Name Here podcast show where we talk about geek culture, news, and lifestyle. So, as promised, we are here at a place where I consider the Marvel Museum. Obviously, Rod, our special guest here.
Special guest, Rodney.
Yeah, so it's one of us, I guess. One of us call it comic collectors, art collectors.
He's not one of us, but he's. I think you know what we're getting at.
So, as you can see in the backdrop here, we've got a whole bunch of statues, a whole bunch of collectibles. I'll just call it. I'll group it up as collectibles.
Yeah,
and I'm still in shock. So if I get a bit silent, it's because I'm literally staring off at all the amazing collection he's got here.
Which is fully understandable. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen photos, but my gosh, it's not. I'd never imagined it'd be like this. So, let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about your collection and how it all started.
We're very privileged to be here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us here. Really, really cool stuff. So, I guess where do we start? That's a real question, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Rod, you and I have known each other for about 7-8 years now, and I think for all the time that I've known you. First of all, I should probably add that the first time I met you at a convention, I don't think I really liked you.
Oh wow!
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
I'm gonna stand out here. Let me get this knife on your back.
Let me explain, because this guy is at the front of the queue. You don't really look like a geek, if I may say so.
He doesn't. I'm gonna say he doesn't.
You look like someone who can handle yourself in a fight, and he can. So, anyone is entertaining any ideas of coming in and making themselves at home here. Bad idea. But Rod, for all the time I've known you, I know that you've always had this mythical collection. This not even a man cave, but a house of your collectibles.
I'll call it the Marvel Museum. That's what I'm calling. I'm sorry, I'm sticking with that.
So where does it all begin? How do you get from being How do you get from being into the stage you are now? It doesn't happen overnight. Where does it start?
Doesn't. I guess it all starts with one comic book and one cartoon or one toy, and it just builds and builds. It snowballs, and suddenly you wake up one day and your house looks like
a museum.
A museum. It started as a young child with my parents buying me, to encourage my reading, to buying comics.
Okay.
Just kids type comics. Those 80s cartoons that us children of the 80s grew up on.
Right.
Thundercats, He-Man, Transformers, G.I. Joe.
So I would probably assume that the three of us here are in that. Well, we grew up around the 80s, where, like you said, around that era where it was Thundercats, He-Man, and all that. Do you find that, and maybe it's just my perception, but do you find that kids nowadays don't, can't relate to that era as much?
I think.
You know what I'm trying
from
to
what
say?
I can gather, it seems like kids these days are
you just
such a video. Yeah, it's such a video game based genre, and it's such. I mean, I know that in our era, in the 80s, it was the cartoons were created to sell the toys, and it was that flow-on effect, which it's just a different avenue now. I think where it's the games, the video games, the iPad games, that sort of stuff are created to sell, and comics aren't as big of an avenue as they may have been for us.
Okay. Yep.
But I was introduced to comics that way, through the toys, through the cartoons, and through reading, as I mentioned, and then it built from there.
Did you find that when you were younger, you were more of a visual person? So when it comes to comics, for example, I know for myself, it used to be whatever cover looks cool, whatever gimmick they put out, whatever artist it is. Did you find the same thing? Or?
I would say no. I would say for me, I was all about the writing.
Okay.
Well, aren't you an elitist?
Nose in the air, all about the writing. But which you may question when you see so much visual candy, I guess you'd call it. But I've got just as much hardcovers and single issue books as I probably do statues, if not more, which I guess is testament to the fact that I'm more writing ahead of art, which is probably not the norm. Mm-hmm. But I do have a healthy love of both.
Okay.
Well, it's clear that you never outgrew it.
No, that's true.
One thing that I will comment on is that I don't see a lot of Batman or Catwoman or DC things.
No, you're right.
Obviously, you're more of a Marvel guy. That must have been one of the early things that you gravitated towards.
Certainly more Marvel. It was a case of what was available to me. Being in Australia, it was quite limited, especially in the 80s and 90s, as to what you could get before the advent of larger comic book specialty stores. It was just pretty much whatever you could find on the shelf at your newsagent, and it just turned out that majority of my local newsagent had Marvel, had X-Men and Spider-Man and Avengers and that sort of stuff, and I bought whatever they could supply, to be honest.
you took whatever they had.
I did. It was like a junkie.
I'm sure the guy behind the counter, when he sees you walk in, he must think, oh, today's going to be a good day.
Yeah.
Dollar signs.
Well, the guy at the comic shop now says he knows whether or not he's eating steak or takeaway, depending on whether I go in that
awesome.
week. So,
so let me ask you. I mean, we've gone through and you've shown us your house so far, and you've got a little bit of everything. You're collecting everything. So we're talking statues, action figures, comic books, anything I can think of, anything I can see. Like it's seriously a nerdgasm here.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this way: where does it stop? Are you to the point where you're starting to grab everything and find everything that you want? Or
it's tough, and I have such an addictive personality and a passion for the characters, and having shared my whole life with them, that when I see something that is related to them, I feel like, especially when you've built a collection this large, you feel like, oh, I need that in my collection. And sometimes it takes your wife to sort of say, do we really need that? And you know, often I'll say, yeah, I do, but sometimes she's right. I hope she's not watching this, but sometimes she's right. And I think, no, she's right. I don't really need that one. I've got 3 of that character, or I've got 5 of that one, which is tough. You're right. You've got to try and apply a little bit of sense sometimes.
So, well, look, speaking about your wife as well, I mean, obviously she backs you about, you know, choosing or collecting your figures and stuff like that. Does she have a lot of input into it at all? Or did you give her sort of, you know, should I do this, should I do that? Should I get the variant editions, all that sort of stuff?
The variant, that's probably her least favourite word in the world, variant. But for the most part, she's quite an enabler, I must admit. She's got a passing interest in a lot of it. Some of it quite a vested interest. She'll get into the TV shows, Doctor Who, sci-fi stuff, Star Trek, that sort of stuff. The books, I can suggest things to her and she'll read some and quite often enjoy them, but she's not a month-to-month reader by any stretch of the imagination. But she'll when previews comes and I flick through, she'll have a flick through as well and say, oh, we should get that and we need to get that. So that's
okay. So
I'm very lucky.
Well, that in itself is quite amazing. You've hit the jackpot. Forget about finding variants. I think you found the variant, the most hard to find variant of all.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. Well, you know, the way you've set things up, I must compliment you on the way you've set things up.
Thank you.
It's all very clean. It is neat. And is there any thought that goes to it, or is it just by necessity? You know, you've got to.
Is there a particular order how you do this?
It's a vague order in the sense that I tend to change it a lot. I like to keep it fresh and rotate it. Statue-wise, I'll display like characters on a shelf together, but as new ones come in, if there's a better match, that's what I'll go with. For instance, I've got Storm and Gambit displayed together because Storm was the first character to interact with Gambit. I know that sounds very, very geeky, and I regret saying it as soon as it left my mouth.
Be proud of it. Be proud of it.
Gambit's first appearance was an issue with those 2 characters in it, so I display them together with the first appearance issue behind them. I do little things like that, which probably just gives me a little buzz. Not many others would come in. Or you guys probably would, but you know, the casual fan who comes in probably wouldn't get why I've done that, but for me it gives me a bit of a kick.
Well, and that's something that I think all of us can relate to, and that's part of the reason why we do these things, isn't it? Or at least that's what I tell myself and my family.
However you
justify
don't
really
it.
Understand it. Yeah.
So let me ask you as well. What I wanted to know is which is your holy grail? Have you attained it, or are you still waiting to find it and you know?
I always said Havoc is my favourite character, and I always said I wish that any producer would do a Havoc. Bowen made that dream come true. Probably 2 years ago now, maybe they released a 1/6 scale Havoc full size figure, which was just I never, from the day I saw the first sneak to the day it shipped, I still didn't quite believe it had happened because he's what you would call an obscure character. But yeah, that for me, that was a happy day.
Well, now that you've got your Grail, I guess it means you can put a cap on this, right? And you can.
No. There's always a new Grail. That's the motto of the true collector. There's always another Grail.
Unfortunately, that is, you speak the truth.
Yeah.
So we're all in this together, I think.
Cool. All right. Well, look. we'll wrap this up for the time being. But again, thank you very much for having us here. Absolutely amazing. Like seriously, Marvel needs to sponsor Rod so he can just put out more and convert the whole house to an actual official museum. That'd be amazing. But look, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you very much for watching. We did say that we had something a little bit special for you guys. Yeah, stick with us, and I guess we'll watch you. We'll catch you next episode.
Yeah, we're gonna go up and play with some toys now.
Awesome. Thanks for watching.
See ya.